Today's first learning objective is I can write inequalities that involve more than one variable. In Noah's problem, we saw two inequalities. The first one was 15 is less than n. And we also saw n is less than 25. These two inequalities only have one variable, the n. So, to get some practice on inequalities that have more than one variable, I'm going to get help from my dogs. Here, my two dogs. The brown and black one is Opie the Rottie, and the white and black dog is Oreo the Husky. We are going to solve two problems together that are about my dogs. I suggest you pay very close attention because your cool down problems are very similar and you can come back to this video for help. So our first practice problem says, my older brother says that the inequalities h is greater than 100 and h is less than 150 describe Oreo the Husky's weight in pounds. What do the inequalities tell us about Oreo the Husky's weight? So, the first thing I'm asking myself after reading this is, what is this problem about? Oh, it's about dogs. More specifically, we are talking about Oreo the Husky's weight. I'm going to go ahead and circle that. And what is my second question that I should be asking myself is, what is the question asking me to do or find? And it's asking me, what does the inequalities tell us about Oreo the Husky's weight? So I will annotate that by drawing a box around it to help me remember that I have to answer this question. What do the inequalities tell us about Oreo the Husky's weight? So to help me start organizing the important/relevant information, I am going to start by first writing what this h represents. And in the problem, it says that the inequalities h is greater than 100 and h is less than 150 describe Oreo the Husky's weight in pounds. Oh, okay, so we are talking about weight. So right here, I'm going to write that h represents, or h equals, Oreo the Husky's weight, which the problem tells us they're measuring in pounds. So to abbreviate it, I'm going to write LBS. Okay? Now, the question is, what do these inequalities tell us about Oreo the Husky's weight? In order to answer that, I have to take each inequality and, like we did in the lesson, rewrite them from mathematical statements into everyday statements. And I am going to write that in green. And again, we're going to go part by part. So this h is Oreo the Husky's weight. Instead of writing Oreo the Husky, I'm just going to write Husky. So this h is Husky's weight. And then I am going to take this inequality, and I know that this inequality means greater than. So I am going to write greater than, and this over here is just the number 100. So now I have Husky's weight is, I'm going to slip in that is there, Husky's weight is greater than 100. Oh, I'm starting now to understand a little bit more about how this is describing the Husky's weight. His weight is greater than 100 pounds. Okay, and now let's look at the second inequality, and we are going to do the same thing. I am going to write it in pink so that we can help our eyes kind of tell the difference here. So again, this H is Husky's weight, and I'm going to write it like this. Husky's weight. Okay, and then this inequality is less than. So I'm going to write less than, and I'm going to try to fit that 150 at the end here. So I have 150. Okay, so this is telling me that the Husky's weight is less than 150. Like the problem about Noah and the points that he took, he made in the basketball game, we are taking these two inequalities and coming to a conclusion about what they're telling us about Oreo the Husky's weight. So the first one tells us that the Husky's weight is greater than 100 pounds. The second inequality is telling us that the Husky's weight is less than 100. So I'm going to take a highlighter to highlight the important information here, that his weight is greater than 100, but less than 150. So what that means, I can write it like that his weight is greater than 100 and less than 150. Or I can write it where I put both pieces of information together in the following way. So I can write, I'm going to choose my purple pen here. So answer is Oreo the Husky. I'm just going to write the Husky's weight is in between 100 pounds, because the problem says the inequality in the problem says that his weight is greater than 100, so it's in between 100 and less than 150. So the Husky's weight is in between 100 pounds and 150 pounds. Between 100 and 150 pounds. The second practice problem says, my brother notices that Opie the Rottie is a little heavier than Oreo the Husky, but weighs less than the neighbor's dog, Cookie the Pit Bull, who weighs 200 pounds. Write two inequalities that describe Opie's weight. Let R be Opie the Rottie's weight. So it's a long problem, but we can always go step by step to understanding it and pulling out the important information and being able to answer the question. So the first thing is, what is this question about? This question is about dogs. More specifically, we are talking about 3 dogs. We have Opie the Rottie. We are talking about Oreo the Husky and Cookie the Pit Bull. What is this problem asking us to do or find? It is asking us to write 2 inequalities that describe Opie's weight. So we have to write 2 inequalities that describe Opie's weight. And they told us which variable to use to represent Opie's weight. We are using R. Okay? So to start helping me organize all of this information, I am going to write the variable and what it represents. For example, I know that the R will represent Opie the Rottie's weight. The H comes from the previous problem, in which it represents Oreo the Husky's weight. And the third dog that we learned about in this problem was Cookie the pit bull. So we have C equals Cookie the pit bull's weight. And my neighbor's dog really is a pit bull, and her name is Cookie. And I do know that her weight is 200 pounds. And that's what it says in the problem too, who weighs 200 pounds. So I can make note of that information here as well, that C equals 200 pounds. I do know her weight. Okay, so now I can go back to what is this question asking me to do or find? It's asking me to write two inequalities that describe Opie's weight. So I can describe Opie's weight in comparison or comparing it to the Husky's weight and to Cookie the pit bull's weight. So if I start with the Husky, I have R that represents Opie the Rottie, and I am comparing it to Oreo the Husky. I'm going to go back to the problem to figure out which inequality sign to use here. If I go back to the first sentence, my brother notices that Opie the Rottie is a little heavier than Oreo the Husky. This is the key word, is a little heavier. The Rottie is heavier than the Husky. So right here, I know that the Rottie's weight is heavier. So it's going to be greater than the Husky's weight. So this is one inequality. The second inequality that I have is comparing Opie the Rottie to Cookie the pit bull. Okay? And before I figure out what inequality goes here, remember, I already know how much the pit bull weighs. Cookie, she weighs 200 pounds. So I can write 200 instead of C. Okay? So now I have to go back to the problem to help me figure out which inequality goes here. So if I go here, I already read about the Rottie being heavier than the Husky. And right here it says, but weighs less than the neighbor's dog. So the Rottie weighs less than the neighbor's dog. So the Rottie weighs less than 200. And I know that the less than sign is this one. So my second inequality is R is less than 200. And my first inequality is R is greater than H. Okay, I have my two inequalities. If I were to take this one step further to start putting down possible weights, I can start by the first piece of information that I was given about the Husky. In the first problem, I was told that the Husky weighs in between 100 and 150 pounds. So I can write that here. Husky is in between 150 pounds. So whichever weight the Husky is, the Rottie needs to be greater than that. Let's say, for example, that I'm saying our Husky is 125 pounds. The Rottweiler needs to be heavier than 125 pounds. So a number that I could put for the Rottweiler is 130. 130 is greater than 125. And over here, I need to make sure that this 130 also makes this inequality true. That 130 is less than 200. And that would be true. So a possible weight for the Rottweiler could be 130 pounds because it makes the first inequality true and the second inequality true.